No one likes to wait. At least I think that's true. Me particularly, I am bad at waiting. Like, as soon as I am convinced that something should happen, I want it to happen immediately. Like, it may take me a while to figure out if I think something should happen, but once I do, I want it to happen right away and go in guns blazing. I hate to wait. Like, the long period of time from when you first see the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer to when it actually arrives in cinemas, as the more higher class people say, the cinema. Like, it's too long. I want it to be immediately. I don't think really any of us like to wait, and we especially don't like waiting when we don't have a choice. We have to wait. Case in point, the doctor's office, right? You go in, you sign in, or you do the paperwork in advance that they send you digitally, and yet you show up and still 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you're in the waiting room with all the sick people that you are also one of. And you're like, I don't want to, let's have a little distance here. Well, when it comes to relationships, waiting is the name of the game. And I hate to break it to you today, but as it relates to dating and romance, waiting is very much a part of it, and there's no way around it. Let me just prove it to you. Think about as you're growing up, right? You're an adolescent, you start to mature, you start to be interested now in people and want a romantic relationship, and you're now waiting to get to the point where you can date someone. Then your parents might put an age limit on you. And you're not allowed to date until you're, in my case, with my kids, 25. You gotta wait to date. Hey, you can't drink till you're 21, right? Like, let's just a few years past that. You can't get good renter's insurance on your car, or rental insurance till 25, so dating, 25. So then you maybe start to date someone and you like them and things are growing and they're developing, and now you're waiting for them to pop the question. Then you get engaged. You're waiting now to get married. Then you get married and you love this person. Maybe you want to start a family together, but you're waiting to be able to have kids. Then your kids grow up and you're waiting for them to get out of the house so that you can get back to the life that you had. But there is so much waiting in relationships. And there's so much waiting in life in general. In fact, a huge chunk of our life is waiting. And I've called today's message, to wait doesn't mean you're late. To wait doesn't mean you're late. My wife made that slide. Didn't she do such a great job? Waiting is not a foreign concept in the Bible, just in general. The idea of waiting is mentioned time and time and time again. In fact, you probably have some scriptures that you've heard that maybe you even really love that talk about waiting, like Isaiah 40, where it says, those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They'll mount up on wings like eagles. They'll soar. They'll run and they'll not grow weary. All sorts of verses in the Bible about waiting, but there's also scripture that talks about waiting when it comes to relationships. And that's where we get into Song of Solomon today. Song of Solomon is the romance book of the Bible. I mentioned it last week, but Song of Solomon was actually, in certain Jewish cultures, it's not allowed to be read until someone's bar mitzvah, till age 13, because it's a little too hot to handle. Now, this book, Song of Solomon, we can come back to the scripture in just a little bit, but this book, Song of Solomon, it was written by a guy named Solomon. Now, he happened to know a thing or two about relationships. In fact, he was so good at them, so you know where this is going. that he had 700 wives and 300, there's more, and 300 concubines. What? 300 concubines, which these are basically people that were not allowed to sleep with anyone else except for Solomon, and he could sleep with them whenever he wanted. So this is kind of crazy. Solomon, in this book, Song of Solomon, he's referred to, actually both parties, the man and the woman, they're both referred to as the beloved. You could say the lover. Lover. You remember those SNL skits? Will Ferrell in the hot tub, lover. Solomon was the lover. So why, you might ask fairly, would Solomon be the one to write about relationships? Because it seems like he had a little bit of a problem with relationships. Now, I'll say this, I'm going to say it was a different time period, but the reason I say that is because some of y'all be judging Solomon, but Solomon didn't have pornography. And if you add up the amount of people that you have viewed in pornography, the temperature just went down. So I'm just saying that I'm not excusing Solomon's behavior at all. But I am saying to not maybe be quite so judgy. But Solomon wrote a lot about relationships and wisdom in the Bible, but like we look at his life, and unfortunately, he didn't always practice what he preached. And if you read through the story of Solomon, you find out that his love connection with all these women is actually what turned his heart away from God. This was his downfall. This was his Achilles heel, if you will. But the reason that Song of Solomon is such a great book is because a lot of people believe that the book of Song of Solomon was actually a book about his first relationship. It all started somewhere, right? And it started hopefully with innocence and romance and doing things God's way. And so before Solomon went all Kings Gone Bible, he was committed to this girl. The Shulamite is her name in the passage. Now, the book of Song of Solomon is not necessarily written in chronological order. It's kind of like a poem in a way, and it's romantic, and it goes back and forth in different scenes. So it's kind of like watching a Christopher Nolan movie. Like, it's not in sequential order necessarily. So, they're dating, and then now fast forward, and now the next chapter is they're married, and now they're looking back on when they were engaged, and now they just had a fight, and now they're making up for it in the bedroom. And like it's like all over the place in Song of Solomon. But 3 different times, the writer of Song of Solomon says this: don't stir up love until it pleases. Don't stir up love until it pleases. And he writes that at 3 different points in their relationship. And so what I want to encourage you with today is, no matter where you're at in your relational world, that every season of relationships requires waiting. Every season of relationship requires waiting. When Solomon says, don't stir up love until it pleases, he's basically saying, don't go too fast. Don't rush this. You may miss important things. I had a chance to go on a trip in England. And in England, they have trains that go, they're not bullet trains like I think Japan has, but they're trains that go faster than the trains that we have here in America. For us in America, we're just kind of stuck with Amtrak. And you kind of take your life into your own hands, like when you decide to take a trip on the Amtrak. But I love the Amtrak in certain ways, but just know the risks that are associated. But when I was going on this train in England, like the scenery around me was going so fast. Like I actually was kind of getting a little motion sick trying to keep up with everything I was seeing out the window. Like greenery and lakes and houses and sometimes you would blink and you would miss it. If you didn't pay attention, the moment would be there and then it would be gone. What's nice about the Amtrak is you don't have to worry about missing anything, right? You're like, hey, this is like 60 mile per hour, like slower than my car. I can like watch. And I think when it comes to relationships, what Solomon's telling us is we need to be a little bit more like the Amtrak and less like the speed train. Some of us were so anxious to get to the next thing that we can rush past something that we actually need to take in this season and at this point. And God doesn't want us to miss out on anything. In fact, you need to be having your senses about you as you're navigating your relational world. Because what's worse than not being married? Answer, being married to the wrong person. Proverbs 21:9 says, it's better to dwell in a corner of a housetop than with a brawling woman in a wide house or with a quarrelsome wife, which seems to be a little bit easier to understand because I don't know a ton of brawling women, but maybe some of you are like, well, you haven't been to my house. I don't know. Waiting is good. And we're going to get to these instances in Song of Solomon where he talks about it. But just to kind of get us right, why is waiting good? And this doesn't have to just be about relationships. If you're taking notes, maybe you're waiting on something else in life. Why is waiting good? Because waiting prepares you for what God has prepared for you. That's good. Waiting prepares you for what God has prepared for you. There's so many cases of this in the Bible. Moses is going to be the deliverer of the children of Israel. But it's a long journey from when he knows that to when it actually happens. Joseph, given the dream that he's going to be ruling over his brothers and sisters. And then there's this long period of time before that actually happens. And all these instances in the Bible, David is anointed king, long period of time. Waiting prepares you for what God has prepared for you. See, if you get what you want too early, it can actually go from being a blessing to being a curse. And I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I watched Parent Trap for the first time yesterday. My wife, it's like, she loves that movie. Like, it was a real special moment, honestly, for us to get to watch it together. And what I didn't know is, as the credits are coming up, it's all, telling you who's in the movie, Dennis Quaid, and et cetera, and there's all, and introducing Lindsay Lohan. That was her first movie, right? Big breakout role for her. But, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but just what I've noticed a lot of times is people who get stardom and fame too early, it kind of messes with their life. It actually makes things harder for them. Having whatever they want at their fingertips when they're not really yet ready to handle it. Although people who sometimes come into that later in life tend to have a better head on their shoulders. I think of like Chris Pratt, right? Who had to work so hard and wasn't really well known until much later in life. He seemed to have this ability to understand how to handle the things he was being given. Another example would be like you win the lottery, right? That's great, that's awesome, but how many lottery winners burn through their earnings in a short period of time because they didn't really have the discipline instilled in their life to know how to handle that amount of wealth. So don't stir up love until it pleases. Wait till the right time. The first time we need to wait for love is before we start dating. A lot of us maybe can relate with that. We're wanting to be with somebody. We're waiting for that person to come into our life. And for you, I would say, to not stir up love until it pleases. And what could I mean by that? Well, for some of us, we're putting ourselves in environments and we're allowing ourselves to be influenced by things that we aren't even aware are trying to rush us. Maybe we're reading certain books or we're watching certain movies or we're surrounding ourselves with certain friends. And what's happening is we're getting this seed kind of planted in our brain that we really need to get into a relationship right now. Yeah. Or maybe we're watching stuff that's kind of like getting us to a place emotionally or even stirred up to a place physically where we're feeling like we need to be in a place that God doesn't have us quite yet. So don't stir up love until it pleases. Surround yourself with the people who are going to encourage you in your season, who are going to say, hey, it's worth it to hang on for a little bit longer. Like you're not missing out. God has great plans for you, and we're going to get into all that in a little bit more detail in a moment. So the first time that Song of Solomon says, don't stir up love until it pleases, is chapter 2, verse 7. Song of Solomon 2:7. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or the does of the field, that you not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. Now, this is at a stage in their relationship where they're just getting to know each other and they're starting their romance. Don't stir up love until it pleases when you're dating, you could say, is the point here, if you're taking notes. They're attracted to each other. They see the potential. They know that the other person meets the criteria of what they're looking for. We talked about that a little bit last week. The person you're looking for, do they love Jesus? Not just are they a Christian, right? There was a Christian in Dearborn this week. Not just are they a Christian, but do they love Jesus? Do they have a relationship with Jesus? Do they show the evidence of knowing Jesus? Or is it just a box you're trying to check off? Do they love Jesus? I would encourage you, they have some basic life things in order? Like, they're not aimless and meandering and they don't know what's next and they don't have a job and they don't, do they kind of have some semblance of this is the direction that they're heading and this is what's going on in their life? I would also even encourage you, how's their relationship with their family? That can be a good indicator of how they deal with those types of relationships in their life. Did you talk with JR and Robin and go through the SYMBIS assessment, saving your marriage before it starts? They'll get it all straightened out there. It's a premarital thing. It's really good. But just if you're taking notes, you could write this down. Slowing down helps you to see things clearly. That's right. I've heard it said, keep your eyes wide open when you're dating and half shut afterwards. When you get married, it's good to have some blinders on. But when you're dating, have those eyes wide open. So maybe it's good to give the person that you're dating a season. Maybe even a full round of seasons. Like see them in literally every season of the year. Fall, winter, spring, and summer. Now, I'm not saying that because there's any magic amount of time that makes it the right amount of time, but I'm just saying people can kind of keep up pretense for a few months. But the longer time goes on, you get to really know them, right? So see them in different seasons in life. See them when life is good. See them when there's a challenge. How are they dealing with stress? How are they dealing with difficulty? How are they dealing with finances? Now, don't get me wrong. There's some of us, this was me before Emily and I, is some of us can be, our eyes are a little bit too wide open. Every little thing, we're hold on, well, what about this? What if we get married and this happens? Yeah. Now, we need to do this within reason. Some of us are going too fast. Some of us might be going too slow. But what I would say is, like we mentioned last week, you're looking for good marble and not necessarily a finished sculpture. Because everybody is going to change over the course of their life. And so you just need to make sure the right criteria, the right ingredients are there. And then the varying degrees of where they're at on X, Y, or Z might work themselves out over time. Don't stir up love until it pleases. The second time they say this is Song of Solomon 3:5. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles and the does of the field, that you not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. Now this is possibly a stage in their relationship where they've gone beyond dating to they're going to get married. It's kind of like an engagement period or a courtship because of the time period that it was in. So now they're beyond just the simple dating, and the commitment is on lock. Things are developing and they're looking good. They've been around for a minute, they haven't rushed into this moment. Now, this is a hard period because you don't want to rush things. You don't want to put things off. My recommendation to you, if you're a believer in Jesus and you're getting engaged, is I would not recommend a long engagement. I don't think you need to get married in a week after you get engaged, but I wouldn't recommend waiting and waiting. If you already know that you're going to get married and it's on lock and you've kind of gone through these steps and you haven't rushed to this point, then there's no sense to prolong this. Because if your goal as a follower of Jesus is to save your intimacy physically until marriage, you're just making it really hard on yourself if that period of engagement isn't a super long time. Now, this goes counter to how the world advises us with relationships. Because the world would say, no, it's fine, just move in, like get to know each other sexually, like compile your bills together. It's a little bit easier on yourself financially. And, test drive the car before you buy it, right? But that's not how it works in God's kingdom. God says put the commitment in place first and then enjoy the benefits of it. And it actually safeguards you to put that parameter around your relationship. And so don't stir up love until it pleases. In the courtship, you got to have some resilience and Holy Spirit willpower and accountability to maintain that purity. But I would also tell you this, to not rush your engagement so quickly because people are watching you. I've seen this sometimes with believers is that they'll kind of rush their relationship to marriage mainly because they're concerned about their purity sexually. And they don't think about, this is a lifelong commitment and you really want to take your time to move into that. And they don't also think about the other people that are taking cues from them about how they should do their relationship. So yeah, maybe it's okay for you to, be engaged and get married next month, but maybe there's somebody in your life who they need to wait a little bit longer than that. And they need to figure things out. And maybe they're not in a place where they're even dating a person that they should be. And they're taking cues from you. And so I would just say, even in the future, you're leading other people who are in a stage of life that you once were in. You can tell them, we got engaged. We went through premarital counseling. And we got married. And you set an example for them to follow in. So, there are similarities about this season and the season that we are in currently as Christians. We're committed to Christ. He's given us the engagement ring, so to speak. The Holy Spirit is the down payment of the fact that we're going to be with him forever. And we're committed. We're locked in, but we're waiting for the ultimate fulfillment when we get to be with Jesus forever in heaven. And so we're living in this waiting period as believers. And we have to understand the difference between now and not yet. The last time that it's mentioned to not stir up love until it pleases is Song of Solomon 8:4. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, that you not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. It's interesting, there's a whole chapter in Song of Solomon talking about their marriage. And the way that marriage was conducted in the Hebrew culture back then was a lot less bride-centric and a lot more groom-centric. It was not really like, here comes the bride. It was kind of like, here comes the groom. And it's just a difference in how we approach that culturally from now to then, which honestly helps us understand the narrative of marriage biblically when it talks about waiting for the bridegroom to come. It wasn't waiting for the bride to come. It was waiting for the bridegroom to come back then. And that's the position that we're in as the bride of Christ. We're waiting for his return when he's going to come in all of his glory and splendor. And he's going to be decked out and he's going to walk down the aisle, so to speak, to be united with us forever in heaven in marriage, so to speak. It's a picture of what's going to happen then. But this is a stage where the two now are married. So what about that? How do you not stir up love until it pleases after you're married? Well, at that season and that stage, what it is that you are staying committed to the person that you've made that decision to spend the rest of your life with. You're not stirring up love outside of your marriage. You're containing it in marriage. And you're not inviting anybody who shouldn't be a part of that into that. Don't stir up love until it pleases. Listen, some things are worth the wait. Some things are worth the wait. I wrote this down. I tend to value most what I had to wait the longest to receive. I mean, think about it with schooling, right? Like somebody who gets their doctorate versus somebody who gets their master's versus somebody who gets their bachelor's. All those things are great, but you tend to value that PhD at the end of your name because you had to wait so long and work so hard. You value most what you had to wait the longest to receive. And listen, you can't microwave a good marriage. You can't microwave a good marriage. It's a slow cook. It's a pot roast. You gotta let it cook. But when that fulfillment happens, there's something about a way that God fulfills promises that almost makes you forget all of the hard stuff that happened before it, once it finally comes to pass. Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verses 11 and 12, talk about these changing seasons. Behold, the winter is past. The rain is over and gone. The flowers appear on the earth. The time of singing has come, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. There's going to come a season where the winter is gone and the spring is blooming. And you're going to say, wow, that was so worth it. That was so worth waiting for. And while you're waiting, there may be some things that God wants to give you that you wouldn't receive if you hadn't waited. Like, our cat got sick, is still sick. I had to take her to the emergency vet last week. And we took her in Sunday afternoon, and it was a really nice vet, but it was like the longest wait of my life. Like, got into the vet operating room or whatever, and I was there for a total of like 3 hours. And there was like not really anybody else there. I don't know exactly what was going on, but while I was waiting, this video was playing on the screen. You know those like Apple TV videos of scenery or things that just play? This was like one of those. It was a bunch of, I found out later, tuna fish that were just like moving around in these crazy formations. And it had this song playing in the background. And I was like, what is that song? And so I actually went up and I got really close to the TV speakers and I filmed the tuna fish going around so that I could like remember the sound of that song. And then I was like, well, maybe it's not just some random music that's for this video. Maybe it's like an actual song. So I Shazammed it, and it was a real song. I've been listening to it nonstop for the last 2 weeks. Or the last week, sorry, it's only been a week. The last week, and I even sent it to Austin and Emma from our worship team, and I was like, we need to make a song that has this type of sound. So while I was waiting, I got something that I needed. And I just wonder if you try to rush past the season that you're in, if you might miss something important that God has for you. What is it that he wants to teach you and instruct you and encourage you with in the waiting room? And here's how we'll close today. Waiting scripturally, it's not passive, it's active. Waiting is not passive, it's active. We have this conception sometimes as Christians that waiting is just like the cop-out. Like, I don't have a job, I'm just waiting on the Lord. Well, are you like applying? No, like just waiting on the Lord, like whenever he wants. Or are you like out there doing interviews? No, I'm just waiting on the Lord. Like waiting in the Bible is not that. It's not, I'm not gonna do anything. Waiting is an active trust in God that leads you towards movement while you're waiting for him to fulfill the promise he's given you. Waiting is an active trust in God that leads you towards movement while you're waiting for him to fulfill the promise he gave you. So, you could say it like this. While you're waiting for the one, are you actively trying to become the one that the one you're looking for is looking for. You should be spending your time not wasting it, but putting it to use. Are you serving the Lord? Austin, can you help me close this down? Are you active in your faith? Are you active in church? Are you using the gifts God's given you to advance his kingdom? If the one you were looking for, which hopefully the person you're looking for is this person who loves Jesus, and they're hot, and they're super wealthy, and they're like all these things, but if they were to walk through the room today, would you catch their eye based on your lifestyle? Or would they say, not really interested? So don't waste the waiting. Don't waste the waiting. Put yourself to work and watch what God does. I think about Adam and Eve, right? When God brought Eve to Adam, was Adam just like chilling with the donkeys and the apes? Like maybe animals could talk, the snake could talk. I don't know if other animals could talk. It's a little vague. Was he just conversing with the other animals, just kicking it? No, he was tending the garden. Adam had a job when Eve came around. He was actively working, and then God was able to say, oh, you know what? Something's missing. If you're doing what God's called you to do, and then he sees, you know what? Something's missing, he'll bring it into your life. And if he hasn't yet, there's a reason, and just keep waiting. And I just want to close with this. Some of us have experienced our share of heartbreak around relationships, and it hasn't gone well for one reason or another. If it's ended in a breakup, if it's ended in divorce, if it's ended up one way or the other, and we're like, well, what about for me? I'm not in any season you're really talking about. I'm in a season of just disappointment. God can even use that. God doesn't want to waste what you've been through, but he actually wants to even use that. And so if you're like, well, I'm not really feeling this whole waiting thing, I'm just I'm over all of this. That's okay. It's okay to not be okay, right? It's just not okay to stay that way. It's okay to not be okay, but just let God start to work in your heart. Listen, we've all experienced disappointment, one level or another, in relationships. But I've also seen God work miraculous things in what seemed like the most devastating of circumstances. God can heal the brokenhearted. God can redeem what you've been through. God can take the pain and use it to plant something that out of it grows a beautiful garden. So keep waiting for him. Wait on the Lord, I say. Wait on the Lord, children of Israel. Wait on the Lord, and he will renew your strength. He will mount you up on the wings of an eagle, and you will soar. You will run, and you won't grow faint. You'll be in a new season one day. We're like the lover in the Song of Solomon. You could say the winter has passed and spring is here. And God takes all of those years that you thought were wasted or you thought weren't really being used, and he can bring it to a beautiful story for his glory. Lord, thank you. I know for many of us, myself included, what causes us not to wait is we're feeling like we're running out of time. We're feeling like we need to rush because we've missed something or we're behind. But I just thank you this morning. You're saying you're not short on time. You're not short on time. You're able to redeem time. You're able to multiply time. You're able to take all of the things from the past and somehow piece it together in a way that redeems time. So Lord, help us to trust you